candidate from Colorado, Steve House. He began his career in healthcare and worked for 30 years as an engineer, sales leader, executive, and consultant with Phillips Medical Systems, GE Healthcare, Cardinal Health, and Aetna Healthcare. In politics, House worked as an aide to U.S. Rep. Kent and as the chair to Adams County Republican Party. House also received a certificate from Leadership Program of Rockies, a conservative public policy training program in Colorado. Steve was elected as the chair of Colorado Republican Party in March 2015, defeating the two-term incumbent Brian Call. So thank you so much, Steve, for giving your time, especially on a little short notice, but means a lot to us. And thank you for working with us. So please go ahead and address our audience today. Thank you.
Namaste, Kush. It's great to talk to you.
Sure.
I did not follow the prescription and do this from my office because I'm on the road as a candidate this morning. Welcome, and I'm really glad to be here. First and foremost, I really appreciate the relationship that President Trump and Prime Minister Modi have. I think they're two men, they're kind of the same beliefs, and they think about the potential of people in the countries they lead. I actually believe that they get something really right that a lot of leaders need to get, and that is that it's not about them as leaders, it's about the citizens of the country they lead, and that freedom and prosperity come from those citizens. And I think certainly both leaders have enabled their citizens to be free and prosperous, and that's really, really important. I also think they're leading countries at a time of crisis, and it's really important that these two men, with what they think and believe, are the leaders in the time of crisis. I struggle a little bit with where we are right now, because on one hand, my campaign office in Aurora, Colorado received a letter yesterday suggesting that on the 23rd of August, I needed to put bars on the windows, remove all my valuables, check my insurance policy, and be prepared for my building to be destroyed because of a political rally that's supposed to be peaceful. Certainly, we've got to restore order in America, but the other side of me knows that I personally believe the next decade and a half of innovation in the world will be the greatest decade and a half of innovation ever. And what better partner to have in that than India? India has been a great technological innovation partner for multiple decades now. And I think between the two of us, we have a great opportunity to unleash that engine fueled by innovation. We're not going to get there, of course, if socialism takes over. And I have a great deal of concern about moms and dads sending their kids to school in communities that don't appear to be safe right now. We've got to get past the COVID-19 crisis. And I wrote an op-ed this morning that was published in the paper about the fact that when you really look at the data, children have a 3 to 6 times greater chance of dying from the flu than they do COVID. And there's not a single verified case where a child has given an adult the coronavirus anywhere in the world. So I think our kids have to go back to school, and they need to do it now because they have more harm by staying out. But while we manage this crisis, if we can win in November, and I have a seat that is supported directly by Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, the vice president has called me, he's coming to help us, because they know that this seat, which has always been Republican until right now, was won by a guy named Jason Crow, who is an impeachment manager. He failed at impeachment, fortunately for all of us and the president, because he was duly elected and should not have been impeached. But Jason has a very low favorable rating. It's 31% of the people who know him like him, a district that's always been Republican. So I think we're getting a lot of support because people know that we can win it. But what I really want to see is I want to see us win in November, and I want to see us take our partnership between us and India. And I have a great deal of friends and support from the National Asian Indian Republican Association here in Colorado. And let's take this innovation for a ride. Let's solve diabetes. Let's, solve some of the problems. We can solve sickle cell anemia, certainly within my lifetime, and that affects a lot of my friends in the Black community. Technologically, we can go to Mars. We can do things that will develop, new transportation technologies and mobility, things for, elderly people. We have to raise the level of health of our elderly, and COVID-19 has showed this in a dramatic way. And on top of that, I think we're facing a labor shortage in the long run in the United States of America because of aging. And that too is where we need to resolve our immigration policy issues. People need to come into this country legally. We need them. We need, the great entrepreneurs of India to keep coming here. They need to come in legally, but so does everybody else. And I think America needs to finally address an immigration policy that they should have resolved back in the late 1980s or 90s. But we're dealing with a Congress that just seems to want to point the finger at each other rather than get something done. For me personally, I travel to Africa as a humanitarian. I do clinical work on the ground in impoverished nations like Kenya and Uganda. When you get your boots dirty doing service for others, running for Congress is a different deal. You start to realize how important service really is. And I'm coming at this from a point of a heart of service. And if I go to Washington and can't get something done, we won't have this conversation in 2 years, Kush, because I will step aside and let somebody else try it. The bottom line for me is we need your support. We have a fairly large group of Indian Americans that are sourced in our district. We need their help. Most of them are entrepreneurs. In fact, frankly, I think they do a greater job of showing Americans how America is supposed to operate than many of the Americans that are born here. And I love that entrepreneurship about the Indian community. So you can reach me at houseforcolorado.com. It's spelled out HOUSEFOR, Colorado.com. We're going to win this thing. We're going to turn the House over to somebody other than Nancy Pelosi, hopefully Kevin McCarthy, someone like that. And we're going to jump into this innovation cushion. And we're going to ask for you guys to be great supporters of that, because together these two countries were built to move the world forward over the next 2 to 3 decades, and certainly in my lifetime. And by the way, I hope I'm alive in 2045, 46, when you guys celebrate your 100th anniversary of being free and independent. I think we should do that in India. I don't know if I'll be able to travel that well in my 90s, but we'll see what happens. And thank you so much for having me, and US Impact for having me today. Have a wonderful day, and bless you.